get started. Actually, can I borrow the clicker? I'll start and you can just bring it. It's fine. Good morning. All right, let's try that again. Do you guys have enough coffee? This is Italy, you should. There you go. Awesome technology. All right, stand up. Let's try this again. Come on. Come on. People. Are you all ready? Are you all ready? Yeah. All right, cool. Stretch a little bit. While you do that, imagine what you would do if you had more time in your life and you would change everything you did in your career and, you know, the things you learned, the things you would tell yourself or your younger self that you would like to do. I don't see you guys stretching. I'm not just like, I know I'm talking, but I'm watching you. Cool. All right, squat a little bit. Everyone, clap. All right, cool. You can sit now. Thanks for the standing ovation. You didn't have to do that. That was awesome. All right, I'm Flavio, or Flapper87, and this thing called the internet, which I believe is going to be really important for us. That's me. Thank you all for being here. I work at Red Hat. I still work at Red Hat. I've been there for, more than 5 years already. It's the longest I've ever been in a company. That's my Twitter handle, and that's my email address. I love feedback. If you like the talk, by all means, please email me, tweet me, do whatever you want, let me know. If you don't like it, I was never here. That is not my Twitter handler. That is not my email address. Forget everything you'll hear. There's not going to be time for Q&A for several reasons. Why? One, I would like for you to just reach out and talk to me. I would rather have a one-to-one conversation with you rather than just have it in the middle of the room. Second, this is Italy, so we started late. And third, this talk is for an hour, and I only have 40 minutes. So fasten your seatbelt because this is going to be a hell of a ride. So this is the talk. Don't try to look smart, be smart, and don't trust everything the internet tells you. Couple of disclaimers before we actually get started. You're going to hear me drop a lot of F-bombs. I'm sorry in advance. I just get too excited, especially when I'm rambling about myself. I'll be sharing some things about myself and the things that I've learned throughout my career. There's nothing that will make you cry, for sure. Or at least I hope not. I'm not expecting you to cry, but it's still hard because I'm talking about the things that make me look really stupid and that I believe, or at least I thought that would make me look stupid. And the things that make me more vulnerable. But I'm doing all this just in the hope that it will help you and that there's anything that you can actually learn from it. And if you don't learn anything from it, well, I've got nothing for you. I'm sorry you wasted your time. And what else? And there will be some generalizations throughout the talk. But as Mark Twain once said, every generalization is false, including this one. So if you hear me generalizing about something, just don't get too hung up on that. I'm actually not trying to just state the truth for everything, just, again, sharing experience. All right, so summary about my career. This is TLDR of my growth as an engineer. I found the internet. That was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Then tons of shit happened in between. Then I actually learned that Luke is Darth Vader's son, which actually is a good thing, I believe, because Luke looked really stupid in the first movie, so that actually made him cooler. Tons of shit happened in between again. Started coding a lot, got into internet, learned how to code, coded and coded and coding whatever language you give me, like even Perl, well, not Perl, but fuck no. But yeah, I coded a lot. Then tons of shit happened again in between. And then they started doing too many Batman movies. And what do you think happened next? Yeah, no, exactly. Tons of shit happened, like this one. Like, why would you make two of my favorite heroes fight against each other? And that's a horrible idea. And now I just eat bananas, mostly because mango is crap here in Italy, so banana is the best I get. Now, the longer version of my career is that I owe a lot to internet. I learned how to code on internet. I learned many things of the, most of the things that I know about technology, and many people that I know today nowadays. I met them through internet, and as soon as I learned how to Google shit, I was the king of the world. I had figured everything out, and I said, I can do this. I'll just keep Googling everything that I don't know. And the greatest thing about this is that I could Google the things whenever I needed them, and I didn't need to study in advance. So that made me realize that I didn't want to go to college, which I don't know if it was a good idea or not, but I didn't go to college. So I figured that I could just Google the things that I needed to know whenever I needed to know them, and only if I was actually interested in them. And I owe a lot to the internet, and it's a great thing. But I also owe to it the hate that I have for it. And I hate it because it is extremely addictive. It is a black hole for time. As soon as you get on it, you just like keep spending a lot of time on it. I hate it because it's made it more difficult for me to actually have meaningful relationships with other people. It has allowed me to meet many people around the world, but it makes it harder for me to actually have meaningful relationships with people because you spend a lot of time on it, and you spend a lot of time just trying to figure out the things that you want to figure out on the internet and believing what the internet is telling you. But the truth of all this is that it is our fault because the choices we make are our own. The time that we spend on the internet is our responsibility. And this is something that we are the only ones that can actually change that. And it took me some time to realize this and realize exactly what I could use the internet for and what it is, which is it is a tool, and it is a tool that I can use and that I use every day, not only for work, but also for life. And I'm very proud of it. But again, the time you spend on it and the things that you do with it are your own responsibility. And I'm not here to tell you, that you shouldn't spend too much time on social media. I'm just here to tell you should be, you just don't blame how addicted social media is and how addicted the internet can be, but rather take your own time in your hands and be responsible for it. So this is not going to be a talk about the internet. It's actually a talk about yourself and the things that you can do for you. I'm a self-taught engineer. And not really a snowflake. At least I believed I was one. This amazing snowflake when I started coding. But then I realized that many people have done the same, and that I was not really special. And when I started coding and I started learning a lot of things on the internet, I figured that many people are going to college, and I take in all the time and just learning whatever I need. And like I said before, I felt like I could conquer the world and that I had everything I needed until I interviewed with Google many years ago. And that was one of the most, I guess, shameful moments for me in my career because, I knew how to code, but I didn't know a lot of the theory behind coding. And then I interviewed with Google. It was, I don't know how long ago, but I remember it was the first call, the first interview, the first guy I ever talked to at Google, and he asked me what big notation is, and I just didn't know it. I was like, well, big O, what's, can I Google it? So the guy was like, all right, let's do this. Just come back a couple of years later, and we'll talk again. And I was like, and he was right. So that was very shameful for me. But I learned a lot. I learned that I was not this special snowflake, and there was a lot of things that I needed to learn. And it taught me a lot about my own arrogance and the way I was approaching things. So what I'd like to say is that I'm not really a self-taught engineer. I think that's an overloaded term, and that's just some things that people say just to be cool. I'd rather say that I'm self-taught professional or human being or whatever. So I try to learn how to react and interact with other people while I'm doing engineering. So engineering is a means that is a thing that I like, and the thing that I do basically to earn money and have fun at the same time. But what we're really doing is we're building things and tools that are going to make eventually people interact with each other either directly or indirectly. So this is what I really like to say, and this is what you're gonna hear in the next 40 minutes, I guess. And the other things is, I guess, it's just good parenting. Thanks, mom and dad, I guess. So first and foremost, time is your most valuable currency, and the reason time is your most valuable currency is because we all, it has the same value for everyone. It's true that your time, like from your perspective, your time is probably more valuable than mine, but from my perspective, my time might be actually more valuable than yours. So let's just all go to common ground and say that we all have a certain amount of time, an X amount of time, and it has the same value for everyone. So time is your most valuable currency. Your life, every day, every second, it is an investment you're doing. Whenever you do and whatever you put your time on is things that you're never gonna get back. So you might as well just do a good investment and try to do things that are gonna leave you something and that will teach you something. Being here, it is a choice. You decided to be here, and the time that you're spending listening to me rambling and sharing my experience is a time that you're never gonna get back. So I'm sorry if you don't like the talk. Again, I've got nothing for you, but definitely it's something that it's your choice to invest this time. So whatever you do, whatever language you decide to learn, whatever paper you decide to work on, whatever work or job you decide to take on, it is time you're going to spend. It's time you're going to invest on this. So be clear and be sure that the time that you're putting on this thing is going to be well invested. There's room for mistakes, and making mistakes is just fine. But just be clear, the time is your most valuable currency. And then I learned, like, when I was started to coding and doing more and more things, I learned that unless you actually care about things, you won't really have an impact on stuff. So having an impact on things, for me at least, is very important, probably because I'm one of those freaking millennials. And if we don't have an impact on things, we really we get demotivated for some reason. It is important for me to know that whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm putting my time on and my effort and my brain, I'm having an impact on this thing. So you can name it: open source project, documentation, website, like life, relationships, anything. I want to have an impact on the things that I'm part of, and unless you actually care about these things, you're not going to have an impact. And the way I learned this was that when I started coding, I started basically coding on everything. Again, like any project that you would give me, I would just jump on that. PHP, C#, Ruby, again, no Perl, fuck no, and Java, whatever you would give me, I would just jump on that because I liked it. I was really passionate about it. I was learning all the things that I could learn. I wanted to gather as many things as I could gather from these projects, and I just wanted to have an impact pretty much on everything. But it ended up having an impact on anything, because unless you actually care about the project that you're working on, you're not gonna put all your effort and your brain on that. You can't do many things and expect to have an impact on all of them. There's a certain amount of time that you're able to do, that you're able to put on things. The day has 25 hours for everyone. So you better choose, like pick and choose exactly what you want to put your time on and just put all your effort on it. And that way you're actually going to have an impact on these things. You really have to care about the things that you do. If you're working on a library, even if other people don't think it is important, excuse me, and you think it is important and you think it's going to have an impact on other things in your life and other things that people are using is going to be useful for other people, just keep doing it. But just care about it and put all your effort on it. If you don't care about things, and if you start doing a lot of things and coding on all the projects that you can code on, you're soon going to feel very overwhelmed about all this. And overwhelmed, it leads to demotivation, and that happened to me super early also in my career, because I started coding on all the things that I could code. I wanted to have an impact on many things: languages, projects, open source, and at the same time, I also wanted to grow, in my career in the company I was working for. And that was just impossible, and I felt like super overwhelmed about all the things I was doing and felt like super demotivated right away. So that was one of the big hits that I had, and realizing that the things that I knew were not enough unless I was able to apply them in a wiser way and put all the effort in the things that on specific projects that I actually care about. So this also taught me to not overcommit. I'm very keen to just like jump on the things that I feel like would help other people. I'm always ready to, when there's a problem, I'm always ready to help, right? And this taught me that even if you want to, even if you could, even if you have the knowledge, jumping on every problem there is, on every project there is probably not a good idea. If you overcommit, you're probably gonna underdeliver. And underdelivering creates a lot of disappointment in the people that are expecting something from you, and that demotivates you a lot. So one of the key things of all this is not being demotivated. If you are demotivated, you're not going to be able to take all the steps that you want to take in your career and learn all the things that you want to learn. And this is all cascade. Like you start overcommitting, you start under-delivering, you start disappointing people, you feel overwhelmed, and you're soon going to be demotivated. So try to avoid that. Dedicate your time on the actual things that that matter to you. Another thing that I learned is don't work for fame. I actually didn't come up with this. Is that you can find this advice even like in cereal boxes. Really, I didn't come up with this, but it did take me a long time to actually understand it. And because most of the time when you hear this kind of advice, people tell you just don't do it for fame. Fame will come. Like you just work on whatever project. And if it is the right project, you're going to be super famous, and that's just going to be awesome for you. I actually think that's a terrible advice. If you have any expectation to become famous of some sort, like unless you're an actor, which would be good for you, and if you have any expectation or urge to just be famous doing software and engineering, just drop it. Do things that you want to do because you care about them. Work on the projects that you want to work on because you care about them and you think are going to be important. Whether you're going to end up being famous or not, whether you're going to end up having gazillion of followers on Twitter or not, just do it because you actually care about this project. It took me a long time to do it. And this is one of the reasons I ended up being so overwhelmed, because I started working on projects that I didn't really care about, but only because they were cool. And nowadays, not sure if you noticed, but nowadays seems to be more important, like being cool is more important than actually being smart. And people say things and act in ways that would just make them look cool, just because they want to be famous. So don't do it. Just do whatever you want to do just because you actually care about it. If you start working for fame, again, you're going to harm the projects that you're working on. You're going to harm the communities that you're working on, most likely. Because you're not going to put all your effort and all your passion on the things that you're doing and in the way that you should probably do it. So again, if you think that working on a specific library is useful for you and it's going to be useful for other people, even if you don't have many people sponsoring you or following you or giving you all the support, just keep doing it if you feel it's important for you. If you don't feel it's important, just move on and do something else. It's fine. Moving on is fine. It's part of our everyday tasks. And as I was trying to do more things to become more famous and learn more and like just like having people noticing me on the internet and that kind of things. I learned what dopamine is, and damn, it feels good. So dopamine, if you don't know what dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and I believe in our brains. I don't know exactly where it lives, but I assume it's in our brains. That is responsible to controlling. It's responsible to control our feel of reward and pleasure. So basically, every time someone follows you on Twitter and you're like, yes, got a new follower, that's dopamine. Every time someone fabs your tweet and you're like, yes, someone likes my tweet, it's like, that's dopamine. So all these small rewards and things that make you feel like you achieved something and that pleasure that you feel out of it, that's dopamine hitting you. That's a dopamine hit that your body is getting. And it's good. Like, I mean, it feels damn good. It's like a drug. It's addictive. And the danger behind that is that then you end up doing things only to get more and more dopamine hits. So that's one of the reasons why we check our phones so often, why we never, ever leave our homes without our phones. Because we need to check it. We need to check whether someone sends us an email, whether someone is following us, how many tweets we have, and heck, who knows, like Facebook, whatever you want, you name it. So we are more worried about having these dopamine hits that we are on creating, again, more meaningful relationships and doing more meaningful things. So another way to put it, if you're looking at the number, if when you open Twitter, there's not, So I want a disclaimer. This is not against social media or anything. But if for you it's more important to, if you look at the number of followers that you have, more than the people that you follow, you're probably just worrying more about your dopamine hits than you're worrying about the people and the things that you're learning. For me, it's more important to follow the right people so I can get the right information and learn more from them than just being followed by that gazillion of people on the internet and just having these set of dopamine hits. And that again, that told me that caring is more important than being cool. So I'm just going to jump over because we're running out of time. So another thing that I learned when we come to motivation is that it is more important to know what motivates you than being constantly motivated. Like again, like if we look around ourselves and we see all the people, the cool people that we have the pleasure to work with and that we're honored to work with, one of the common things is that we often see that they're super motivated. Like you always see them and you're just like, God, how is this guy always happy? How is this guy always like coding so much? How is this guy always like, like doing so many cool things? And he's like she's always motivated and she's always doing all these amazing things. Well, it turns out that the most important thing is not being constantly motivated. I actually think that being demotivated sometimes is good because it gives us some time to actually take a step back, retrospect about the things that we're doing, and then start again and start over. But the most important thing for you about motivation is knowing how to motivate yourself. So whenever you are demotivated, you know what to do to just bring you back to that motivation stand and mindset, so yeah, you can get started and keep going with your life and doing all the amazing things that you do. But being demotivated sometimes is good. It just like gives us that kickback and like sit down for a second and look at the things you're doing. Because if you're feeling demotivated right now, it's because something went wrong down the road. And this is probably a good time for you to just like take some time and retrospect on that. And another thing that I learned is that growth is a reward. And this all came from the same, analyzing what dopamine is and how all these dopamine hits work on me. And then I learned, it's like, well, it's good to have rewards. Like all the things that we're doing, we want to learn something and we want to feel rewarded about it. We want some recognition. And there's nothing bad about that. But there's another thing that we need to know is that growing is a reward. And I don't think we give enough importance to this thing as we should. Every day we learn something. Every day we try to fix something about ourselves and become better humans, become better engineers. And as we do that, we don't realize how much we're growing until 10 years have passed, and then you look back and you're like, gosh, I was a dumbass back then. And then then you go like, all right, so in 10 years I've learned all these things, and I've never stopped for a second and to realize and give myself like a good reward and a good pat on the back and say like, you're doing great. So every second, every time you grow, every time you learn something, that is growth, that is a reward, and there's something that you can get out of it. So give yourself some dopamine hits out of that. It's great. And the other thing that I learned as I was doing this is that you own your own growth. And I think this was one of the key things for me. I know I sound Italian, but I'm actually also South American. I was born in Venezuela. That's part of the third world country. I lived in there, and I lived there for 20 years, so I basically grew up there. And the reason I'm saying this is because Venezuela, if you're looked at the news, is pretty much fucked up right now. And so we didn't have the same opportunities that many other people had, right? So when I was there, you would always look at other people in more evolved countries, I guess, first world countries like the US, like even European countries, like you would go and say, like, you look at the internet, it's like, right, I mean, these guys have everything. Like, they're doing this, they can go to conferences as I can't. I want to learn this, I want to go to this college, I can't because I'm living in this country, and these guys have all the opportunities that I don't have, and blah, 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 blah. Until I moved to Italy 10 years ago, and then I was like, well, what's your excuse now? You are out of that country. What's your excuse now to not take control of your own life and start growing and do all the things that you want? So I realized that even 3 years into my life here in Italy, I was still using that excuse to not do all the things that I wanted to do. So there's a time for you where you just have to sit down and say like, okay, my life and my career, it's in my hands. Yes, I have people to report to. Yes, I have managers and we all have bosses. And sure, they control our salaries and probably our promotions. But your growth, the things you learn and the things that you can do with your time, they're all in your hands. So it really depends on you. It's like being 60 years old and still feel orphan, like you're a grandpa already, like you should just probably move on, right? So just take control of all the things that you can do with your time and own your own growth. You are responsible for whatever you do in your career. Sure, like there are bad things that can happen, but still, trying is free. This is something else I've learned, and this happened soon after I realized that I was responsible for my own growth, and then I started trying to interview with other companies, trying to do the things that I actually wanted to do. I interviewed with Google, and well, you know the story already. But that helped me to learn other things until I interviewed with some other companies, and I ended up at Red Hat, what I'm pretty happy at. And there's no need to keep doing other things. But even within Red Hat, I have my own challenges and the things that I wanted to try. So every day is an opportunity for me to try something new, fail at it, or succeed at it. And any whatever the result is, there's always something that I can learn from it. And that taught me that as part of my trying process and failing constantly, there's not enough no's that you can get. So if you've been hit in the face many times with no's, just keep trying. It's fine. But throughout the way, try to find mentors. It's fine to find mentors. Find people that you can look up to. Find people that you would feel proud to be like in the future. I have many mentors. Some of them know they're my mentors. Some of them just don't know it, but I still look up to them, and either on internet or code reviews or whatever, I look up to these people and say like, okay, I like the way this guy or this girl like approaches a problem, and I would like to just learn more from it. So find mentors. It's fine to find mentors, and actually I would argue that you should have mentors. If you don't have it, you're probably setting yourself up for some really bad experiences in the future, because you're not going to be able to figure everything out yourself. There are many things that have been figured out already for you by other people. So learning from others is probably one of the greatest things that I learned. And this all came from that. And as I was doing more and more on the internet and trying to become famous, I ended up trying to compete with people because I wanted to be better than them. So I learned how to code, and then I started competing with other people on Twitter and internet, and said like, well, I'm just going to be better than them, until I realized that was impossible. And because the internet is too big, well, definitely bigger than me. So the thing that I realized is that it is better if I compete with myself and I just collaborate with others. So what I would do is I would just go to the internet, try to talk to people and learn from them, collaborate on code, documentation, like even discussions, and I would just compete with myself. I would compete with my own fears. I would compete with the things I didn't know. I would compete with anything from me that I knew was holding me back, so that I could just go up and share the things that I knew and the things that I didn't know, and just make better results with people. So this is one of the things that I took to heart, the strongest, I guess, and the things that I lived with every day. I also realized that boredom may be a sign. It's fine to, like, as I was competing with myself and trying to do more things, I realized that I get bored very often. And when I was a kid, I would tell my dad at least 5 times per day that I was extremely bored. And trust me, like, even though I was in a third world country, I had everything I wanted. I had Legos, consoles, and anything you could imagine. You name it, I had it. So I had no excuse to actually be bored. But I was still bored because, I don't know, like, the things that I had were not fun for me anymore. So, and the same thing happened when I started working. Like, I would take a project, and after 3 months, I was like, this is boring, and just move on to the next one, and I wouldn't have an impact on anything, and just kept transitioning from project to project. So, it took me some time to realize that boredom might be a sign that you might want to change the project that you're working on. If you're changing projects every 3 months, it's probably not good. You should dedicate time to finish the things that you start. But sometimes when you are bored about the things that you're doing, it's probably a good sign that you should probably move on. And you're burning out. So you don't want to burn out, and you want to work on things that you care and that you can put your entire effort on. And things must feel right. Whatever you do, there's a lot of rationality in our industry and the things that we do. That's our favorite way to reason about stuff, just being rational about them. But some of the things that you do and the projects that you work on, they must feel right. So if you're going to work on a project just because it is cool and the project is just like doing something really wrong, and it's being built for the wrong purposes, That's an extreme example, of course, but that's a good example of the kind of things that I'm meaning here. If something doesn't feel right for you, just step back, find something, and move on. So having self-confidence is not the same as being arrogant. I'm not going to explain this because it's kind of like self-explanatory. This one is important. One thing that I always do, I do it like at least twice per year, is just taking some, doing a retrospective on the stuff that I've done, talk to people that have worked with me, and try to self-evaluate myself. I would just build this form, send it to people, and ask for honest feedback. Just know if you do this, and I only have 3 questions of it. Is like, what do you like about working with me? What do you hate about working with me? And anything else you want to share? Those 3 questions, that's what I send over. And trust me, if you hit the right people, you'll get honest feedback. And we'll just be warned that when you ask for feedback, some people might actually share it. And you might not like the things that you're going to read. But it's part of the growth, right? You want to be a better human being. You want to be better and learn from the things that you're not doing right. Giving emotional answers is extremely important. So if someone reaches out to you over email asking for feedback, just pick up the phone and talk to the person. You cannot give emotional answers over text or over email. So make sure that those human relationships that you're trying to build are meaningful, and that you provide emotional answers when an emotional answer is needed. And we fail at it many times in our career because we're just used to talk over text on the internet, either on code reviews or emails or whatever other social media that we have. So don't forget that on the other side of the screen there's a human reading whatever you're writing, and the written words don't carry emotion or tone, and that's extremely important. I'm just going to skip this one. Okay, this one, and then I'm over, I swear. Your culture is an asset for you. And we saw the diversity slide from stats from the opening talk. And as we do more and more things on the internet, we realize how many different cultures there are in the world. And for some people, even for me, that I'm half Italian and half Venezuelan, if you want. For some people, having a different culture than the standard, stereotypical internet culture sometimes doesn't feel right. Well, let me tell you that your culture is actually an asset, and the way you do things and the way you approach problems is actually great, and it provides diversity and a different way to do things to the group of people that you're collaborating with. So if you think there's just one way to do things and one culture that you should stick to, you're wrong. You've been lied to. Your culture is an asset, and you should just make sure that people know that, and that whatever you have and that is coming from your own culture, you can apply it to your work and share it with the rest of the people that you're working with. And of course, there are things that you can learn from others, so always be ready to listen to people. And okay, that's. Oh, I'm just gonna stop here because I know we ran out of time. So I guess the last thing is we're very passionate about technology. I'm very passionate about technology, and that's where I spend most of my time. And something it took me some time to learn when I started coding is that technology is not really my life. And despite the fact that I actually like it, and that's the thing that I do for a living and the way that I earn my own living, it is not my life. It doesn't define me. You're free to believe whatever you want, but it is great to have other hobbies. It is great to have other things that you like. It is great to be different in other areas of your life. If you're spending all your time doing tech, great. It's your time. You can do whatever you want. But take some time to actually unplug and try to find other things that you're passionate about, because we are very diverse in our minds, and we have many things we like and many things we hate. Sometimes we just haven't taken enough time to actually go ahead and explore them, and we probably should. And again, when I started coding, I was fully immersed in coding and being this famous tech guy until I realized that that was mission impossible. So I decided to just go ahead and explore other things that I liked. There are many things that you can do. So take the time to just do them, and don't let the technology industry define who you are, but rather try to bring whatever you have, your culture and the things that you like, into the technology industry just to help us make it better. I'll shut the fuck up now and let you guys go to the next talk.